YouTube, it's Zoe, or Read by Zoe, and today I'm going to share with you all my favorite books of 2015. I originally was going to make this my top 10 favorite books of 2015, but I read 74 books this year, and I just couldn't only pick 10 books, so I picked 12. Also, I can't put them in order of how much I liked them because that just seems cruel. So these are just going to be in a random order. I have chosen a lot of different books from different genres, so hopefully I'll mention a book that you too would like to read or you've already read and really enjoyed and we can talk about it. Let's get started. Book number 1 is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This book is set in the year 2044 and everything is just not good. There's not enough food or supplies or even space. The main character, Wade Watts, right here, he lives in a trailer park, but instead of the trailers being side by side, there's not enough space for that, so they're actually stacked on one another. The only good thing about the year 2044 is the Oasis, which is a virtual reality experience. You can go to church, you can go to school. Actually, the main character goes to school in the Oasis. You can go shopping, a heck of a lot better than the actual reality of that time, and that's why most people spend all of their time in the Oasis. Before his death, the creator of the Oasis left some clues in the virtual reality to where he hid his fortune and the remains of his company. Whoever finds all of these clues gets the company and all of the fortune and fame. One day, Wade stumbles across the first clue and that just sets everything in motion. There's also these bad guys called the Corporation, I believe, who they're a big corporation and they want to get their hands on the Oasis because they just want to take over the world, and the Oasis is pretty much the world. It's a big race and Wade teams up with some other video gamers to try to get to the prize. It's really action-packed and definitely very different from any other book because it's set in a video game. Like Spy Kids 3D Game Over, but better, you know? Book number 2 is Yes Please by Amy Poehler, which is her autobiography. I love female comedians' autobiographies. I've read Minnie Kaling's Is Ever Going to Hang Out Without Me and Tina Fey's Bossy Pants. They are both hilarious, and this one was as well. I think I liked it even more than the other two, possibly. Her writing style is so sarcastic. I listened to this book as an audiobook, which I think is the best way to read this book because she has some guest stars. She also goes off on some tangents with, like, Seth Meyers. She just starts talking with him and it doesn't even have to do with the book. They just start talking and it's hilarious. Book number 3 is Winter by Marissa Meyer, the 4th book in the Lunar Chronicle series, the big finale. This book is over 800 pages long, which is about twice the size of all of the other books in the series. It had to be that long though because everything happens in this book. Every single page has you on the edge of your seat because either someone's getting hit, someone's fallen in love, you will have some sleepless nights, but it will be worth it. I don't want to tell you too much about this book because it was a finale, but the first book is Cinder, and it is a sci-fi retelling of fairy tales. This fairy tale in particular is Cinderella, and Cinderella is a cyborg. There are also the Lunars. They have special powers, and they live on the moon. The queen of Luna, or the moon, is Queen Lavanna, and she wants to take over the earth. There are wars, and again, there's romance, and there's some political things that are happening. Really juicy and great. Book number 4 is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. I read this in one night. I could not put it down. This book follows a teenage boy named Clay Jensen who comes home from school one day to find a box of tapes on his front porch. He takes them and he doesn't know why they're on his front porch until he starts listening to the first tape and hears a voice of Hannah Baker. Hannah had committed suicide a couple of days before, but before she committed suicide, she recorded these tapes to explain to 13 people why they led to her committing suicide, even without their knowledge. Even if they hadn't actively bullied her, Clay is one of the people who did it without his knowledge. He was nothing but nice to her, but he did still do some things. Along with the tapes, she gives a map to all of the places that she references in the tapes. He goes to the destinations that she mentions and just relives her last couple of days. It's really emotional because you know at the end of the day she did die and she did commit suicide, so you can't really stop her from doing it. Even just talking about it, still feeling it months after reading this book. So So good. Book number 5 is The Emperor's Babe by Bernadine Evaristo. This I actually read for class, which is very, very rare for one of my favorite books of the year to have been a book that I was assigned. But it's actually a novel that's written in verse. I read it for my Modern British Poetry class in London this past semester. This book is set in the year 211 AD in what is at that time Londinium, or Roman-occupied London. It follows this girl named Zuleika, and at the beginning of the book she is only, I think, 11 years old. This rich, fat, middle-aged politician comes to Zuleika's dad and is like, hey, I want your daughter. I can give you a bunch of money. He's just like, sure, take my daughter. Have fun with her. So Zuleika goes off with this man who only wants her for her body, which is just all kinds of gross. One day when Zuleika is a teenager, the emperor himself comes and they start to have an affair. Some scandal happens. You also learn a lot more about Roman London, except this is written in modern language, so you learn it in modern terms. You think of these people as modern people. Book number 6 is Just One Day by Gayle Forman. This book centers around a main character named Allison Healy, and she has just graduated from high school, so she's on this 3-week-long European tour. She meets this boy named Willem, and he is a traveling actor with a Shakespearean group. In reality, Allison is really by the rules person. She does what she's told, but when she's with Willem, she becomes this other person. She puts on this kind of fake persona of a very fly by the seat of her pants person who is very outgoing. So she goes with him for just one day in Paris, France. She has a grand adventure with him, which is only about the first third of the book, and then the rest of the book is her dealing with all the repercussions of this adventure. Although at the beginning of the book it kind of seems like this is just a fluffy contemporary where her and this boy of her dreams are just gallivanting across Europe and having a great romantic time, but it becomes much deeper than that, and it really becomes a coming-of-age book. Number 7 is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, one of my favorite authors. She also writes the Throne of Glass series. This is the first book in her new series. It is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, one of my favorite fairy tales. The main character of this book is a 19-year-old woman named Feyre, and she is a hunter. One day she is in the forest and she kills a wolf, except it's not a regular wolf, it is some magical creature, and because she kills it and then later skins it and eats it, this beast comes to demand some retribution and takes Feyre and brings her into his own mystical fairyland. The beast is actually a fairy ruler named Tamlin, and he does the Beauty and the Beast type thing. He treats her really well, but is still ultimately holding her captive. There's magic and romance, and later on some kick-butt action. It's also really different from Throne of Glass. I already really enjoy Feyre as a main character, and there are already a lot of people to ship her with, which is always a problem in Sarah J. Maas novels, is that you want to ship the main character with everybody. Book number 8 is I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. 2015 was definitely the year of Sophie Kinsella for me. I don't even know how many of her novels this year. I think I read most of them. Like 80% of her novels were read by me this year. If you want your romance / humor fix, pick up a Sophie Kinsella novel. Out of all the books that I've read by her this year, this one was definitely my favorite romance. It just develops so nicely throughout this entire book. At the beginning of this book, Poppy loses her engagement ring, and it's not just any engagement ring. You can't just go down to the mall and pick it up. No, it is a family heirloom, so it's kind of a big deal. But that's not even the worst part. When she is trying to find her engagement ring, her phone gets stolen. She is all flustered until she looks in a trash can and sees a cell phone just lying there. She's getting these random texts from this dude named Sam. This phone actually belonged to his assistant, so she's trying to kind of act as his assistant while also trying to find her ring. Poppy is also a hot mess throughout this entire novel, so it's so funny. Number 9 is Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead, which is the first book in her spin-off series from Vampire Academy, which I also really enjoy, but I like Bloodlines even more because the characters, Sydney and Adrian, I like them more than Rose and Dimitri. I'm just gonna say that. Like I said, the main character of the series is Sydney Sage, who is an alchemist, and alchemists are a group of humans that serve to protect the human world from the vampire world. Sydney is placed on a mission by the alchemist to go to Palm Springs, California, and help protect a good vampire or a Moroi from the people who want to kill him or her. I'm not going to say because of spoilers, but she is forced to be in close quarters with vampires and she is not very okay with that. She has learned to be very wary of vampires and she thinks that all of them are evil. She's really smart too. She's kind of like Hermione, but a little bit less open to things. There's Adrian in this book, and every single book is better when there's Adrian. The next two books, books 10 and 11, are by the same author, which is Morgan Matson, and the books are Since You've Been Gone and Second Chance Summer. Morgan Matson is one of my favorite authors. Since You've Been Gone centers around a main character named Emily, and she thinks that she is pretty uninteresting, especially when compared to her best friend, Sloane. To Emily, Sloane is the one who came into her life and brought Emily out of her shell and made her do exciting and fun things. She went on adventures and just brought Emily along for the ride. Emily is looking forward to an exciting summer with Sloane, except when she goes to contact Sloane and goes to her house, Sloane isn't there. One day, Emily is sent a letter by Sloane that contains a list of 13 things that she wants her to do during the summer to make her life more interesting. Some of the things that are on the list are like dance until dawn, share some secrets in the dark. During the book, Emily is trying to do all 13 of these things while also trying to look for Sloane, and she befriends Frank Porter, who I really enjoy. He is just, nice. Second Chance Summer, on the other hand, is definitely not as fun. If you're looking for a fun, summery book that will make you feel good, read Since You've Been Gone. But if you're looking for something that is a little bit more emotional and will definitely make you cry, pick up this one. Taylor Edwards is the main character of this book, and she runs away from all of her problems. When things get tough, she gets out of there. However, her father learns that he is dying, and for one last summer with him as a family, they decide to go back to their old lake house in the Poconos Mountains. The last time Taylor was there, she was 12 years old. She left behind her first crush Henry and her best friend Lucy, who she had betrayed. She has to actually confront things. She has to confront her father's death and the people that she left behind. Although this book does have a romance or two, it's not the main focus of this book's content. It's mostly focusing on family and friendship and building all of those relationships and how important they are. There's always a good moral value in these books, but not like it's preaching to you. And book number 12, my last favorite book of 2015, is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. You've probably heard of the TV show Outlander, which is fantastic and I love, one of my favorite TV shows, but of course the book is always better. This book begins in 1945, right at the end of World War II, and focuses on a main character named Claire Randall, who was an army nurse. After the war, her and her husband go on a trip to Scotland, and while she is there, she is transported back to the year 1743. During this time, war is rampant between the English and the Scots, and she is stuck in between because she is in Scotland, but she is an English woman. Both sides don't know if they can trust her, and she has no idea what is happening or if she can even get back to 1945, but she meets this beautiful man named Jamie Fraser, who is a Scotsman. He is a manly man and can take care of her. So not only is this a romance book, but it's also a political book, a war book, a history book. You learn all about this war and what's happening. I actually learned a lot while reading this book, and it's also a time travel mystery. So those were 12 of my favorite books of 2015. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you learned about a few new books that you might want to read yourself. And if you have a favorite book of 2015, tell me down below. I definitely want to learn about some more books. Remember to follow me on my social media. The links will be down below. Basically, it's all at readbyzoe, so it's pretty easy to find me on the social media. Thank you all for watching so much, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye!